Welcome to Inside Out Conversations, where we go beyond surface level talks and explore what is truly needed for an executive to scale up in their career, to live up to their full potential, and to land opportunities that are more rewarding. For this, an executive has to do an inside out work, and that's exactly the scope of our conversation in today's talk. I'm Manju Murugesan, a mindset coach and the founder of the company Flip Your Story. It's an organization that focuses on coaching and training. And today I'm in conversation with my friend and an established personal branding consultant, Mr. Charan. Last episode, we had conversations about what is important for an executive. Is it loud impact or silent talent? And today, we have a very interesting conversation to have with Mr. Charan in personal branding perspectives. What are the red flags? What are the deal breakers? And what are the must haves in a personal branding consultant? So, welcome, Charan.
Thank you, Manju. Thank you for hosting me, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Okay, now to start with, I discovered that personal branding consultant is different and a personal branding strategist is different. So, can we just throw some light on that and then we'll start rolling in this conversation?
Wonderful. So, to simply put, the difference between a strategist and a consultant is a strategist gives you a blueprint on how to go about building your personal brand.
Right.
Whereas a consultant goes a little over that aspect of it and not just gives you a blueprint, but also holds your hand and works alongside with you on how to roll it out and materialize it. So that's basically the clear difference there.
Okay, now are you a consultant or are you a strategist?
I'm a consultant, so I don't just give advice and tell you like go take it on your own, tata bye bye. No, I don't do that. So I'll be holding your hands all along the way, and I'll be providing people with the way to go about executing that as well.
I know that you're a consultant, but I just wanted you to tell it to the audience. Do you are one? Okay, now let's get into the meat of today's conversation. I want the audience to understand what is the role of a consultant in the first place. So now let us look at the leaders in an organization. What is that you do that they do not realize that they're not doing?
See, a lot of people do not even think about their visibility, okay, irrespective of uh, how long they are experienced in their respective organizations. So the first thing that I would want to have a conversation with the leaders is to make them feel how important their visibility is for their personal growth. So
Okay.
that is where the conversation starts.
Okay. Now, a basic difference that I want to create in the audience is that there is a marketing consultant, there's a social media manager, and there is a personal branding consultant. Can you throw some lights on what are the difference between the three? Because I think audience are usually very confused because these are very overlapping scenarios.
See, marketing consultant and social media consultant, okay, there are a lot of similarities. Marketing is the biggest of the bucket, okay, and largely the terminology of a marketing consultant is associated with working for organizations.
Okay.
Okay. When it comes to a social media consultant, um, you could tell you can work for an organization as a social media consultant, or you could tell you could work for an individual as a social media consultant. Okay, they could perform the roles for individuals as well as organizations. But the primary objective of a social media consultant is the managing of the social media platform for the individual. The what you call the tips and tricks to maximize the effectiveness of the social media platform that they are given the responsibility of managing. So that's their focus area. When it comes to personal branding consulting, it is about the social media platform also, but then the topmost priority is not about the platform per se, but it is more about the person. Like, you have the platform, you have the space to tell what you do. What are you actually going to represent or showcase about your potential or skills? That's where the conversations around the personal brand consulting comes into the picture.
Right. Okay. So marketing is a bigger bracket, and social media is what is going to be posted and what frequency it's going to be posted. And consultant actually figures out what has to be posted, what kind of an image has to be projected. Okay. Now, tell me, why is that people have to invest in a consultant rather than them doing it themselves? It's a very primitive question, but I want to understand it from an expert like you. Why having somebody is gives that edge?
So there are multiple possible reasons for them to do that. Okay, one is uh, if you're wanting to do on your own, do you have the time to invest on years together? So you go about figuring out a lot of things on your own by the trial and error method of the way. You try to read things, you try to understand things by as on date people talk to ChatGPT for everything. Okay, so you go about trying to do things on your own, so the amount of time that you spend on going from point A to point B is longer. So
Right.
if you have that time and if you have that discipline to do things on your own, then and if you have that curiosity to discover everything on your own, then you're set out for yourself. You don't need anybody. Let me be very clear there. So when you're engaging in a consultant, they bring in their expertise to fill in and fast track or give a head start on all these aspects. The time to go from point A to point B is faster.
Mhm.
There are a lot of things that even if you don't know, there is somebody who has already figured it out for you. I mean, this aspect that I'm talking about, it is not very specific to a personal branding consultant, any consultant for that matter. Okay,
Right.
but then the same applies to here as well, as the point that I'm trying to bring.
Right. See, I understand that to go from point A to point B, having a consultant because they are experienced in the industry, that's one. But you also spoke about ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT is being obsessively used by everybody. If not ChatGPT, there are other AI platforms which can give you the kind of content. And as a consumer, I somehow feel like everybody is just putting things out of ChatGPT. And what's the point? What's the value that I am deriving when I'm reading? So now, what are the repercussions of using ChatGPT for building personal branding? Is something I would want you to answer.
See, one of the important red flag, if I may use that terminology for using generative AI, is um, at least in the last week, the Chat GPT's version 5 rolled out. Okay. One of the key update on the version 5 of the Chat GPT was to tell Chat GPT to not to be a very agreeable platform to whatever you ask. Largely, the generative AI models, ChatGPT or the one that comes from Google or other platforms, they say very positive about whatever you ask.
Right.
There's no critical reasoning about what you say. It says whatever you ask, whatever you say, whatever you want it to respond to, it'll always be a very a positive coach for you. A lot of times, you may think that that is helpful. I need the positivity, but then if it is not doing things that are helpful and critical for your growth, then you are being fed into a false positivity.
Right.
You're doing good. This is the way to go about it. Okay, let me get started on providing this, that, everything. It basically works on what you ask. It
Yeah.
will not be in a position to critically reason about what you're asking with respect to the gaps or the disconnects between you as a person to what you are asking as an activity.
Right.
That is missing there, and that's where people tend to get carried away.
Okay. So, what is your thoughts or like a nugget of wisdom that you want to give to the audience when people resort to using ChatGPT or any other AI model to build their personal brand? What do you want to tell them?
See, there are two ways to go about it. One way is there's this what you call as fear mongering about AI taking over people's jobs. Okay, so
Right.
there is that way of telling now AI is coming to take away everything. You don't need a person. So I am not of the bucket where I would want to pass on that fear mongering. In fact, I am on the side of the conversation where please go about and explore all these platforms that are available at your disposal, because the more you explore these platforms, the more awareness that you get about the limitations of these platforms.
Right.
I don't have to explain myself for 15 minutes on what's the value that I bring to you, because you would have already known a lot of things by using these platforms extensively. On the limitations of it, I can make the case for me in 5 minutes. So that saves my time. So,
Okay, good. Okay, now that brings me to some cliched questions that I have about choosing a personal branding consultant. If I can ask you, what are the top three quality traits of, before I choose, say, if I want to establish my own personal brand in, say, LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever social media platform. Now I come to you as a personal branding consultant. What is that? What are the qualities that I should be seeing in you?
see, the first and the foremost important quality, I think, again, this cuts across all consultants per se, is the ability to listen.
Yeah.
The primary thing, if the whoever the person whom you are looking to engage as a personal brand consultant for building your personal brand, then you need to be assessing them on their ability to listen. Are they able to listen to you, probably in the initial conversation, or if not in a later conversation, and trying to understand what is it that you're wanting to do, the purpose of it. Okay,
Right.
this is one. The second important thing is, are they in the conversation with you, the consultant, the personal branding consultant, are they in the conversation with you for building a visibility for you based on your strengths, or are they in the conversation with you on building a visibility for you based on what the platform demands? There
Okay.
are two things. There needs to be a fine balance around it. And if a person is always wanting to build a personal brand as a consultant for you to appeal to what the platform demands, you may probably be putting out a lot of things, but it may not be relevant to who you are as a person. You may service the platform, but you may not service the authenticity of yourself. So that is really another important aspect that they need to look at. These are largely the important things. So you don't get carried away on the listening aspect of it. You don't get carried away on servicing to the platform. If these things are largely met with or largely understood as fairly positive, I think it's a fair conversation to have thereafter on the other aspects.
Okay. Primary thing being listening. Yes, I agree. Whatever is a requirement of the client, understanding that is the top tier requirement. Now you said sometimes we end up servicing the platform. The platform has a different expectation, and we have a certain authenticity that we wanted to carry, but then sometimes we fall prey to the platform. Now let's talk about the industry specificity. Say if you have come from a certain industry and you had a certain background, and does industry specific brand consultant required to be hired, or are the principles of branding universal?
See, I would talk from my experience on this front. Okay,
Sure.
so I come from a very tech savvy background. My educational discipline is from computer science engineering. Okay, so when I talk to people who are on the tech side of things, um, I would be adding a lot of head start in terms of understanding their expectations. They don't have to dumb it down to explain it to me so that I get the point. So there is an aspect of me bringing to the table of a conversation becoming faster and quicker for the domains that I am aware of. There's another aspect. I've worked with financial consultants, CFOs. I
Right.
have no experience in any of the things that they do. Okay, but then there's a flip side to it. In a sense, I put myself in the shoes of a person who can consume the content that they are wanting to share. So if a financial consultant, or if a chief financial officer wants to build their personal brand in their own domain topical area, then it should not be an echo chamber of the level of competency in the things that they are putting out. It needs to be in a way that is consumable and understood by people who have a fairly limited understanding of the domain as well. So it is not a technical conversation, but more towards a business conversation around the topical area, or more towards a simpler conversation around the topical area. So where I could bring the expertise as a person, if I were the person who's supposed to consume your content, and then try to imbibe certain takeaways or values from it, is what you're wanting to share meeting those expectations? I put myself in that shoe and try to look at it that way. But then that said, from my personal experience and expertise, I'm able to play these different roles with respect to different people. But then there are a lot of situations where people may not be able to, which is fair on their part as well. So you can always look at who is actually figuring it out. I mean, who is actually being a better partner for you? Somebody who can put themselves in the shoe of a layman who's not an echo chamber in your domain, and then fill the contrast in the conversation. Would that work? It would work for some people. Or in other case, in some people, I want somebody who understands my domain in and out, and also build my personal profile. For some people that also works as well. So there's no one size fits all solution for this. You need to have the conversation and figure out how, at the end of the day, how that person brings the value to you for your personal brand, is all the decision that is important to make at the end of the day.
Oh, that's beautiful. It is purely need based. In certain cases, it works. In certain cases, actually not being an industry specific consultant also works. That's brilliant. Now, I wanted to ask you this question from the time I read this article. That article spoke about branding, and it spoke about the psychology behind perception and the psychology behind influence. Now, as a brand consultant, is it important for them to have an understanding of the difference? And what is your take?
um, You mean the question is around the perception aspect of it, or the influence aspect of it, the differentiation between it, is it?
Yes.
See, my answer to this is, goes back to the fundamentals of why do you want to actually build your personal brand in first place. Okay. See, there are certain people who are having a lot of competency, but they are not recognized, or they are not advertised, or they have not put it out in the platforms on their depth of competency. So there is a perception gap there. Okay, people assume you don't know certain things, and you know only certain things. So the requirement in that context of it is to, how do we go about changing the narrative on how people perceive the individual or the leader. Okay, so in that fundamental of why I want to build my personal brand, if that is the problem that we are wanting to solve, then the focus area is on that. Okay. There is another perspective where uh, there is always an authority that is known about the person in closed chambers. Within the
Mhm.
organization, people are aware, people respect them for that. But then outside of the organization, these leaders are not well established. Okay. So there could be multiple reasons for it, primarily starting with they don't have the time, or they haven't found a person who could help them around with it on a consistent basis. There could be many reasons, or they didn't even think that that is important. Okay, so for these kind of people, there is a topical authority or a competency that already exists, and all they need to do is translate that into, how do I influence the public conversations or the public domain chatter around coming to know of this competence that I have. So there, the impact or the focus area on influence takes the primary driver of the conversation.
Right. So basically, the context of personal branding is you are the authority in certain things, but does the world also know if you are the authority, right? So how can we bridge the gap? See, as a consultant, that's the bridge that the consultants build, right? Where this is who you are, this is your competence, this is how you represent yourself and you just project that. Okay, wonderful. It always surprises me, like the example that you said, there are quite a few people who are industry experts, but then they still do not either have time or they do not have the right kind of a person who can help them, right? There are also cases, classic cases, where they did take help from a consultant and it actually backfired more than working for them. So that takes me to the next conversation, which is the red flags and deal breakers. Can you give me an example of, say, a leader or a senior leader in a company who had a consultant and it did more harm than doing good?
So, as I told you, some of the important aspects that one need to have, I was mentioning about listening as a skill, right?
Right.
So, when you don't listen, you miss out the key aspects of the expectation. Okay, the person who is taking your service, they assume based on their sharing that you have consumed and listened, and they assume that you're able to take forward uh, the work that is required to be done for them. But then when they come back, because they have not listened, and because they fill the gap due to lack of listening with their own assumptions and past experiences,
Right.
then it puts them into a spot. This is one. And the second aspect of it is, see, in a lot of situations, a person who is holding the responsibility of a personal brand consultant, they also hold the access credentials to the leader's social media. Okay.
Right.
The responsibility aspect of you holding the access credentials to the leader is very important.
Absolutely.
So you need to be very professional. You need to be very um open, and you need to be very clear about in what aspects that you're going to use those credentials and in what aspects you're not going to use that, so that it builds the trust. Because I'm giving you the access to the platform's visibility about who I am as a person. It changes a perspective for a single like or a comment on a post that might appear on a feed of a peer group, and it draws a perspective about what I represent as a value as a leader. If by chance you go about by mistake or for whatever reasons thinking that this would improve the networking ability of the leader's profile, and you go about connecting with certain set of people on your own without the approval, or liking certain content on their profile without their explicit approval, then it puts them in a spot that they are really not ready to be in.
Absolutely, that is a very, very important and a valid point, because they have the credentials, and what we like also is like a really big deal, right? And even initiating conversations on their own might be beneficial, but then still it has to happen with the permission of the person who's actually availing the service. That's a brilliant point. Now, tell me more about the other red flags and deal breakers, Charan. Say for a layman, just put it out. What are they supposed to be more wary of? Sometimes certain services, like say, be it coaching, be it personal branding consultation, people find it a little difficult to understand where are things going wrong. When should somebody pull the plugs?
See, if the consultant or a person that you're engaging with for building your personal brand, for everything that you say, they are saying okay, and there are no follow-up questions, or there are no points of alternate view, or points of inquiry, or points of debate and discussion, that's a red flag. So
Right.
they are not, they are becoming an yes man for you. Okay. And for people who are in senior positions, uh, they already have a lot of people reporting to them.
Hmm.
So in a lot of ways, if I may use this terminology, they already have a lot of yes men.
Yes.
So you don't want to hire one more person as your yes man. You need to have one more person who is critical when it is really required, and who is fair in their reasoning for being critical as well, and who is coming off as a person who is very curious about why you want to do what you want to do, and then going about doing the heavy lifting for you in the background. If that aspect of it is missing, then the yes man is not going to take you anywhere. And if things doesn't work, that yes man is going to tell you, hey, it is all your idea, I just executed. It was never my idea or intention. You asked me to do, I did. So it will fall into that bucket of, if it succeeds, probably they'll say, ah, yes, I also did play a role. So it was me who helped you succeed. But
Right.
if it does not succeed, or if it fails miserably, or if there is something that untoward happens, then there is a lot of possibility of these kind of people to tell, hey, I am just a person who is doing the operations role for you. You are the brain. So if it is wrong, then you take the fall. So yeah, that doesn't work that way.
Okay, that's actually beautiful. See, sometimes we also get carried away as a person who's availing the service can also get carried away, and they're so used to getting yes from everywhere. So that's very familiar to have a yes man and then just keep executing. Okay, that also beautifully makes me transition to the next set of questions that I wanted to ask about the metrics and how do we measure success in personal branding. I know for sure because yours is putting content out there and the content has to get validated by people. Now, likes and followers and views becomes like a thing. Now, what do you have to say about it?
See, we touched upon this topic in a brief manner in our previous conversation as well, with respect to the loud impact. Okay.
Yes.
See, again, I want to take it from there on, where we spoke about on the aspect of, to what extent do we need to look at these matrices that are being provided by platforms, to what level we need to take it, and to what level we need to avoid that. In a large way, these matrices are vanity matrices only.
Yes.
Okay. And there is a certain validation around it, but then that is not a validation for the entirety of the things that you're wanting to achieve through building your personal brand. So when we are saying about the matrices, it again starts with the earliest of the conversations in engaging a personal branding consultant and telling them, see, if somebody does a first call with me, what I would want to spend that 1 hour of my time with them is trying to arrive at what is their purpose. Sometimes people may have that figured out by themselves, which is good. Otherwise, if they don't have that figured out, at least we are taking the conversation in the direction of figuring it out before we take it any further. Because why this is very important is, when we are very clear about for what purpose we are building our personal brand, then
Mhm.
we can define the matrices that are very relevant to them. See, whatever the platform offers, it always keeps talking about impressions, likes, shares, engagement rate. So irrespective of what you want to do, it will only talk about these matrices. But then, let's say if your metrics on the platform is 1% now, and from 1% it is growing into 5%, but then your objective is not met, like your objective is to land a new job, it is not met, then it's a success. It's like operation success and patient is dead. So that's a kind of a combination there. The operation is success. The metrics, the platform's analytics took from 1% to 5%, coming from what we looked at on day one to looking at on what is day on day 60, probably. Okay.
Right.
But then, did it move the needle in the direction of what your objective was? If it doesn't, then it is not there. So that purpose of it is very important to start with, and defining that purpose and aligning certain matrices to measure that purpose of it is actually going to be of better use for them.
Okay, beautiful. No, it's not always the numbers. Numbers is a vanity. I completely agree to it, and I really like the explanation you gave the last time as well. Now. We can define the metrics, is what you said. But beyond all of that, what are the subtle signs in the background that the branding efforts is working?
See, these are all not the high impact signals. Okay.
Right.
Just as you rightly put the word as subtle signs, right?
Mm.
There has been instances where, even for my own LinkedIn, okay, The post that I have put out had hardly garnered 3 to 5 reactions,
Right.
zero comments. Okay.
Mhm.
So if we look at it from an outsider perspective of, has this post succeeded? It failed miserably. Hey, hardly 3 people liked. Okay, and there is not even a comment around it. What's the point on this post? What is the impact did it make? Okay, so that's a very superficial look at it. But then what it has actually done in a behind the screens manner is that post that had a very low engagement actually landed me a client. So the client basically happened to come across this post, and note this client even say a like on that post. They didn't even like that post for that matter. Okay.
Right.
So, and they were not my first degree connection as well.
Okay.
So they happened to come across this on their feed, and then they liked what I shared, and it opened up the conversation for them to reach out to me on messaging on the LinkedIn platform itself. And
Mhm.
the conversation led to them becoming my client. Okay, so if we look at what is the measure, sometimes if the measure you can see it out, like matrices also add some value in terms of, hey, that has received a good amount of traction. But then if this traction does not move the needle in move the needle in the direction of whatever the goal that you have set. In my case, the goal is to have more people reach out to me for engaging or building their personal brand. If it doesn't solve that, then that is a thing which we are setting ourselves for failure. So these subtle signs, when we talk about these subtle signs, people reach out to you in private, and I would say like a lot of people who are consuming your posts, who might be an influence for you in whatever the space that you are in, aren't the people who are the cheerleaders there. These are not the always the people who are the people who actually value you, who actually make a real opinion about you. These people watch in silence, and the moment is when the moment comes, they reach out to you in private where they have a need. See, always people keep looking out for quality people. Okay, so that is
Right.
always there. Whether we are meeting to the quality expectations of what people are looking for is all that really matters.
Right. So we keep putting the content out, we keep creating the perceptions or what we want to put out, and people are sometimes silent observers. And then when they feel, oh my goodness, I'm actually relating with this person more, then that prompts them to reach out to you. That's actually a beautiful metric in itself. Okay. So before we close the session, I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. How often should somebody revisit the branding strategies that they are using? That's one question. And another question is, say somebody is just going to start out personal branding and maybe they will not be hiring a personal branding consultant immediately. So, what is the input that you want to give them on where they can start exploring before they start reaching out to a consultant?
See, primarily for anybody to start out on their own, they don't even have to put out content. Okay,
Mhm.
start with, they don't even have to ideate on what I can do, etc. They can keep that all aside. Okay, because uh, they may not have the time to do all of these things by any means based on their typical work schedule. Okay, but then just like a kind of a housekeeping activity that you do for any of your fitness goals or something like that, you can probably set out half an hour of your daily schedule. And what are you going to do on this half an hour blocked, focused time slot is you can do two things. Item number one, you can explore and try to connect with people that you actually want to grow your network with.
Okay.
Spend time on figuring out or searching for the people that you want to connect with. Spend some quality time on that,
Right.
because you are, even if you are engaging me as a consultant, you are still the expert on whom you want to connect with. I can't figure out whom you want to connect with.
Right.
So that activity is still in your bucket, so you don't need to have a consultant to do that activity. You can do that. So that is one. And the second thing is, in the process of figuring that out, it is not always a successful endeavor to send a connect and expect them to accept it. So When we are wanting to connect with some people, figuring out the person that we want to connect with is one part of the task. And the second part of the task is trying to establish our visibility with that person on the platform is also important. If they are sharing something, if they are putting out an article, if they are sharing a perspective, you can always go about adding your 2 cents about it. So, building the conversation is always a better way for somebody to remember you or recognize you. And there is from 10% possibility of them accepting your connection request where you have not engaged with them, it goes to 90-95% of possibility of them connecting with you if you have engaged with them.
Right.
So you spend 30 minutes of doing this every day. That's a huge difference in terms of what it could add value to you in the way that you want to do. Because let's say you want to kickstart your thought leadership journey on building your personal brand. You need to have the audience to listen to it or consume that, right? So if you're just having 100 followers and you want to keep putting out thought leadership content, then who is the person who's going to consume it?
Humid, yes.
So while probably you might be a year away in engaging a personal branding consultant for real, this 1 year you can spend 30 minutes of every day as a strict regimen in building your connection base, and that will set you up for the bang of a start that you want to have when you are really wanting to put content out.
Lovely, lovely. That makes a lot of sense. Make sure that you are connected with more people so that they end up consuming it, so that they understand you better, because those are the people that you want to consume your content and build a connection. The idea of we creating content and establishing who we are is also for them to understand us deeper. So there has to be viewership first of all, for us to project. That's wonderful. And how often do you think somebody should revisit their branding strategy?
If it is on their own, then let them not look at any branding strategy or anything of those big words. Let them keep it simple. Connect with the people that you want to search for the people that you want to connect with them, engage with them. That's it. No other strategy.
Okay. So no revisiting. Stick to the foundation.
Yeah,
Okay.
simple things.
Wonderful. Good. It was an amazing conversation as always, Charan. And for everybody who's viewing, if you want to follow Charan, connect with him. This is his QR code on screen. If you go with an open-mindedness, willingness to learn, I think Charan is a person who can give you oodles of wisdom. So yes, go ahead, connect with him and initiate a conversation. If you have any queries, clarifications about personal branding, he is the man for you. Okay, with that said, Charan, so what's going to happen next in Inside Out Conversations?
So as we always do, uh, the flipping the roles. Okay. So the last time when you were in the hot seat and when I was interviewing you, we touched upon the aspects of what are the things that people need to look at in figuring out who the right coach is and whom we need to run away from. Okay, I think we touched upon that quite elaborately. Okay, so the next thing is enough of all the things that has got to do with the coach. Okay, there are coaches, there are good coaches, so they are already available. So before you go about figuring out who's a good coach, are you ready on your leadership growth journey? So I want to put a spotlight on whether the leaders themselves are ready and prepared for their personal growth, and what are the aspects that probably people did not warn them about with respect to growing their leadership potential. I want to open up a conversation with you and try to understand on that front, where I would probably want to dig into your experience in working with a lot of leaders in shaping their mindsets. So that helps serve it as a huge learning curve for all the others as well.
Right. Leadership is going to be an amazing point of conversation for both of us. So I'm looking forward for the conversation.
Wonderful.
Okay, with that said, thank you so much to everybody who is tuned in, and thank you so much, Charan, for adding so much value for the audience. And I'm really looking forward for the next episode. Thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you so much.